Welcome to CLJMS News, where your choice is the student voice, covering a variety of topics about your students, your school, and your community. And now live from the newsroom, our very own CLJMS News team.
Welcome to CLJMS News. I'm Seth.
And I'm Carter. Today we'll be covering a variety of topics from our various reporters, including pandas, technology, the science behind dry ice, information about our new Husker football coach, Nebraska truck drivers, and many more.
Now let's go to Tucker with a story about some furry little creatures. Tucker?
Thanks, Seth. There are many different kinds of animal tracks. Some of them you can tell the gender of the animal that made them. For example, male deer have spurs on the back of their foot, so a male deer will have two small dots behind the actual print, while females will have no dots. Some animals have similar or the same footprints. For example, wolves, coyotes, and foxes all have similar tracks. Some animals have tracks that are easy to identify because they look like what you'd expect. Like a moose track looks just like a cow or other hoofed animal. Some animals have tracks you wouldn't expect, like a squirrel. They have blank spaces in the center of the hind foot, so there's only an outline of the foot. Animals with webbed feet like beavers and ducks have one solid shape with a few toes sticking out. Back to you, Carter.
Thanks, Tucker. Let's drive on over to Rylan with a story about local truckers.
Thank you, Carter. Hi, I'm Rylan, and today I'll be talking about Nebraska truckers. Truckers help us get goods across America. Without truckers, what would we be doing? To drive a Sona, you must have a CDL. Okay, is trucking a difficult job? Why or why not?
I guess to me it's really not because I've been doing it for so long, but it's about average. It's not for everybody.
So those were a few words from Tyler Rasmussen. He is not just any trucker because he calls cattle. Cattle is the most difficult thing to haul because it is live. I'm Rylan, and thanks for tuning in to CLJMS Student News. Back to you, Seth.
Great information, Rylan. Now let's make a move over to Evan with the high school wrestling update.
Thanks, Seth. This is Evan Kay with your C.L. Jones Middle School News. Wrestling is a sport that is enjoyed by many. Although the C.L. Jones Middle School wrestling team is fairly large, it could be a lot bigger. There are about 15 people on the 7th grade wrestling team. Also, there are about 8 people on the 8th grade wrestling team. The Minden Middle School wrestling team has wrestled in Kearney, Holdridge, Broken Bow, Westridge, and Cozad. The coaches try to make practice as fun as they can. The coaches for Minden Junior High Wrestling are Mr. Wood and Mr. Ross. The wrestlers practice each day for about an hour. They practice in the wrestling gym located in the C.L. Jones Middle School. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the wrestlers have weights from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. What is your favorite part about wrestling?
My favorite part is throwing people down. That's the most fun part.
Back to you, Carter.
Speaking of wrestling, Dalton's got an update on our middle school competitors.
Thank you, Carter. Wrestling is a big part of entertainment in the middle school and high school. Even though there are many people that come to these events, these events are called meets. Meets are held all over Nebraska and sometimes the county. We have students come from the middle school participating in wrestling. Back to you, Seth.
Thanks, Dawn. Now to Andre with an interview about technology.
Thanks, Seth. Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about technology and how it affects the daily lives of people. Not so long ago, I took an interview with a local student. Here's footage of my interview now. Hello, everybody. My name is Andre. Today we have our good friend Jose here. He's going to help me answer some questions for my interview about technology. Now, Jose, do you think technology has a positive effect on people in our country?
Yeah, I think that people are trying to, if people are not around, they can just call them and, text them and FaceTime.
Have you ever had a bad experience regarding technology?
Yeah, well, my DS, I had an old one. It kind of, it was getting really old. And so what happened was it was, smoking, and I thought it was going to explode, so I threw it in the toilet.
Oh.
And, yeah.
Okay. How old do you think a person should be to have their first phone?
I think they should be 13 or 14.
When did you first start getting involved with technology?
I was probably in 3rd grade when I got my first Nintendo 3DS.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how dangerous do you think the internet is?
I think it's a 5 because sometimes it isn't, but like you get like notifications that put in your email, your address, and your phone number.
What is your favorite piece of technology and why?
Probably my PS3 that I have at my house, because it's pretty fun to hang out with and to play with. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this, and thank you, Jose.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give a special thanks to Jose for letting me interview him. Thank you all for your time. Now back to you, Carter.
Thank you, Andre. It's time for our weekly forecast with Brayden.
Thanks, Carter. Be prepared to get the winter coat out this week. It's going to be a cold one. On Sunday, it's going to be 36 degrees and cloudy. On Monday, it's going to be 34 with the sun peeking out. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas with a Happy New Year. On Tuesday, it's going to be 37 degrees and cloudy. On Wednesday, the coldest day of the week, it's going to be 27 degrees and cloudy. Then it starts to warm up with a high of 35 on Thursday, 36 on Friday, and finally 41 on Saturday.
No, because I like the climate change around the rest. I like a white Christmas.
Chilly holiday week. Now let's warm things up with a closer look at some volcanoes. Trey.
Thanks, Seth. Volcanoes have been on Earth since the dinosaurs were alive. There are so many volcanoes in the world, like over 200. Some are much older than you think. St. Helens is one of the volcanoes. That is one of the biggest volcanoes in the world. It went off a long time ago. Some they're going to blow up, and lava is going to get all over. Then everything's going to start on fire. Lava can burn down a whole entire city, and then people can die from the lava. Back to you, Carter.
Thanks, Trey. Some explosive information. Let's continue with some more science. Jose?
Thanks, Carter. Do you know what dry ice is? Many of us have always wondered. I spoke with a 6th and 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Hollinger, about dry ice.
Dry ice is frozen carbon dioxide, and when it does what's called sublimate, which means that it goes directly to a gas from a solid and it never melts and becomes a liquid. And so it gives off this cool vapor.
Dry ice is solid carbon dioxide, and it is negative 109 degrees Fahrenheit and 78.3 degrees Celsius. It was observed by French chemist Charles Steiler. Some people call it cardiac in other countries. Contact with dry ice will lead to frostbite and cold burns. Absolutely do not drink or eat dry ice. Do not seal dry ice in a sealed glass container, or else the glass will burst. You must wear gloves handling dry ice, or else you will get cold burns. If you put dry ice on food, you will get a sour taste. This is not very toxic, but the outgassing can cause hypercapnia due to build-up confined locations. I also asked my teacher about how it works, and she said it does what it calls sublimates, and it creates a vapor that comes out of the dry ice that comes out and works. Back to you, Seth.
Thanks, Jose. Let's take a timeout, and I'll give you a bit of history behind the game of basketball. The beginning of basketball began in 1891 in Springfield, Massachusetts. The person who invented basketball was a Canadian physical education instructor named James Naismith. After it was established in American colleges, it was in the NBA. James Naismith invented basketball because they needed a sport to play in the winter. The first 13 rules of basketball were including no shouldering, holding, pushing, tripping, striking, and many more. It was first used in 1891 at the YMCA training school in Springfield, Massachusetts. The first basketballs were made out of leather stitched together with rubber bladder inside. Also, a cloth of lining was added to the leather for support and uniformity. Also, the first basketball hoops were peach basketballs nailed to an elevated track. Clearly, there are many things that happened in the beginning of basketball. Now over to Rylan with some information about our high school basketball team.
Thanks. This year, boys basketball has started off well, and throughout the season, I'm sure we will get better. Hopefully, we can keep a good season going. Now, let's find out what Coach Jordan Reinerson thinks.
I think it all starts with defense, because we have guys that can score the basketball inside and out, and maximizing our opportunities defensively. I think defense leads to offense. So if we improve in that area, we can be a tough team to play against, I believe.
After only allowing 86 points in their first 2 games and scoring 110, they came up short in Lexington, losing 49-38. As Minden has scored 148 points in their first 3 contests while only allowing 135 points in those 3 games. One could argue that 50 points per game is their magic number after averaging just under 50 points per game while allowing 45 points per game defensively. Back to you, Carter.
Thanks, Rylan. Let's make a pass from basketball to football.
Our Nebraska football team has had great success in the last 3 years. Hopefully Scott Frost, a former quarterback, can turn things around in the football community. Frost has had great success at the University of Central Florida. In fact, he went undefeated in the regular season. He is going to bring back Nebraska nature, a hardworking physical team that will be in the weight room. He is also bringing in a great coaching staff with tremendous character and determination. Now over to Alexis with a cute, cuddly creature.
Thanks, Carter. Today, most people believe that pandas are still endangered species, but really their numbers increased so much that they are no longer on the endangered species list. Did you know that it costs zoos $500 million just to have them in the zoo, and if they don't pay that, then they have to send the pandas back to China? Also, did you know that they have to send the pandas that had babies, including the babies, to China, and they can't keep the babies to show off it to people in the zoo or keep them in their nursery? Also, they have been off of the endangered species list since 2014 to this day. Back to you, Seth.
Thanks, Alexis. Slip on those boots and hop on that horse. Tanner is going to give us some details on rodeo clothing.
Thanks, Seth. This is Tanner E., CLJMS Middle School Entertainment. Today I'm going to talk about rodeo clothing. The new booming brands are Rock and Roll Denim and Hui Denim. Rock and Roll Denim is mainly focused on jeans, but they also deal with shirts and dresses. Hui Denim sells more than just hats. They also make shirts, belts, and boots. This is a Hui hat. Back to you, Carter.
Thanks, Tanner. Looking good. Now let's dig deeper into the history of our state. Ava?
Thanks, Carter. Nebraska, which was the 37th state on March 1st, 1867, 2 years after the American Civil War ended, contained some of the nation's ranchland and farmland. Prior to its statehood, the Nebraska Territory had been barely settled but saw a huge growth in population during the California Gold Rush in 1848, with a large wave of settlers arriving as homesteaders in 1860s. Although the territorial capital of Nebraska was Omaha, when it achieved statehood, the seat of government was moved to Lancaster, which was later renamed to Lincoln after President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated on April 14, 1865. But by the 1890s, Nebraska showed continuous growth until the farm depressions by the 1900s. Most of the prime land in the state was settled, and larger claims were needed for profitable farming and ranching. Back to you, Seth.
Let's check out a special interview with Caden.
1.
Thanks, Carter. My name is Caden B., and I'm interviewing Josh Bradley, Master Mechanic at Landmark, and this is what he said.
How long have you been with Landmark?
14 years.
What is your favorite thing to do when working at Landmark as a mechanic?
Working on combines.
What kind of machines do you work on?
I'll work on combines and sprayers.
Thank you, Josh Bradley, for your time. Back to you, Seth.
Thanks, Jaden. Now let's see an epic battle between the USA and Canada with Will.
Thanks, Seth. In 2015, I moved to the United States and I noticed several differences. First of all, Nebraskan and Canadian accents are very different. For example, the word again is sometimes pronounced as again, and the word aunt is sometimes pronounced with a silent U. Foods are a bit different. In Ontario or Quebec, usually, there is a treat called poutine. It's fries with gravy and sometimes cheese. I've never found this in the United States.
Thanks, Will. Let's take a look at a local Christmas tradition. Riley?
The Christmas lights downtown have been around for over 100 years and have awarded Menden with the name of this Christmas city. We decorate the streets and the courthouse with thousands of lights every year. We have a Christmas parade every year and many people attend the parade. The city of Menden really loves and respects Christmas. A lot of people travel over Christmas break and meet family members in other states or have family members come to Nebraska. In Nebraska, we could have 3 feet of snow on Christmas, or we could have thunderstorms and inches of rain. Back to the Christmas lights. Many people from around the area come to look at the Menden Christmas lights, not just the courthouse lights, but the lights families put up on their houses every year. I hope you have an amazing Christmas and stay safe. Back to you, Seth.
Lily has a few things to add about this year's Christmas City happenings. Lily?
Thanks, Seth. The bouncy houses have been going on for 2 years on the square downtown Minden, Nebraska. The houses are open to 1 to 5 and 5 to 9:30. Back to you, Carter.
And that's today's news.
Thank you for tuning in to CLJMS News.
Where your choice is the student voice. See you next time.